Most people possess, at some specific point in the day, in their lives, or on some particular occasion, an experienced sense of detachment with Sarah. While some individuals have a very hard time finding their own center, there are others who find it easy to leave it as well. And when this specific situation finally happens, what we have been saying for such a long time now becomes incredibly apparent to everyone. The intense focus that creates, that gives immense strength, and that provides vital energy begins to be slowly deposited in various places she does not yet realize and that she does not clearly perceive. But she is definitely doing it. And it is right there in those very moments that these powerful, unconscious manifestations are truly born into existence. Engaging in a deep discussion about conscious manifestation is absolutely essential, but exploring the concept of unconscious manifestation, which could arguably be considered for many individuals, is perhaps even more necessary. Because when it comes to the process of unconscious manifestation, you will find that most of the time it unfortunately opens the door to a deep sense of victimhood and powerlessness. So then the person says to themselves, but I'm a good person. I always strive to do what is right. I always want to treat everyone well. I'm always organized with money. I always think of others. So how on earth can these things happen to me? This sense of victimhood that emerges quite directly from duality, from the concepts of right and wrong. So if I do things right, I should naturally receive the right and positive results every single time. If I do things wrong, I get the wrong results. But if you really take a moment to look around you, and if you look at the people right there by your side, you'll see that it's not always like that. It's not always like that. And why isn't it always like that? Because making things happen requires focus. Focus comes from a truth. It comes from a certainty. And to actually make things happen, you don't need a sense of polarity. You don't need to be strictly right or strictly wrong, or strictly good or strictly bad. Making things happen has to do with building up energy, which doesn't depend on polarity. That is exactly why, whenever you find yourself getting easily distracted by minor things, when you completely lose your focus on what matters, or when you get into a heated argument with someone, when you start talking behind someone's back and say negative things about a person who is not even there to defend themselves, or when you spend your time complaining endlessly and pointlessly about your personal problems, or perhaps complaining endlessly about those other people, even if you truly believe in your heart that you are on the right side of the situation. So when I say something, it's not out of malice. I'm saying it because that's just how that person is. I'm just talking. I'm not judging. What you're doing is taking you out of your center. You're aligning yourself with what you see as wrong in the other person. And what's going to happen? It's not about the other person, it's about you. Because that energy of the mistake you're talking about doesn't go into the other person's life, it goes into your own life. When you say, well, I'm just saying that person could maybe do things a little bit differently, perhaps in a different way. Yes, you're talking, thinking, feeling. As a result, you're emanating that energy. But what you emanate has nothing to do with the other person. It has to do with what will be manifested in your own life. It's in your life that that energy will accumulate. So, complaining about your boss, no matter how satisfying it is for your mind, doesn't solve your problem. On the contrary, you think, feel, and emanate. All that deep-seated resentment, that constant dissatisfaction, that heavy feeling of victimhood, and that sense of injustice that you're feeling because of that situation. With that specific person, it's all getting organized and it is getting concentrated right in your own life. That's why constantly speaking negatively about others, talking about your own problems, talking about other people's problems, or listening to all the problems that frequently appear on TV or the internet. From the moment you think and feel, it no longer has anything to do with the other person. It no longer has anything to do with those people on the other side of the world. It no longer has anything to do with the external factor. It starts to be incubated inside you, incubated within your own field, in your life. And it's there in your life that it will materialize. So, this is actually the root of the entire issue. This is exactly where all your unfortunate misadventures are born. Your obstacles, your difficulties, your challenges. It's in these unconscious materializations that the things you don't want to experience are born. You might say to yourself, but I practice creative visualizations. I do my mantras and I listen to frequencies, but my life simply doesn't seem to change at all. It doesn't change because you are still feeding into those very same energetic vortexes. You are still saying, these things only happen to me. If that person changed, then yes, my life would change. If this job got better, then yes, I would feel good. If this pain went away, then yes, I would feel good. If that person loved me, then yes, I would be happy. You are simply and continuously creating within your own life the very same experiences that you're currently going through, because with every single thought you have, every emotion you feel, and every bit of energy you put out into the world, you naturally align with, significantly strengthen, and eventually materialize those things into your reality. And that's exactly why you create a loop of remarkably similar life events, because you experience it firsthand, you think, you feel, you cling tightly to that energy, and then you simply create it all over again. Then you think, feel, you must hold on to the energy and actively recreate it once more. And that's exactly how you close yourself off to all of this, which ultimately ends up lingering in your life for a very long time. So, you really need to understand that what you don't want to experience is in some way fundamentally aligned with you. But if you begin to truly open your eyes to the world around you, you must make a conscious choice to stop allowing the heavy burden of a victimhood mentality to consume your spirit and take complete control over your entire being. Victimhood is the shadow. When you say, but it's that person, not me. But it's this situation, not me. And this doesn't depend on me, but it still makes me suffer. There's no way I can remove that person from my life, and all they bring me is conflict, only unpleasantness. Engaging in this specific type of victim behavior makes you send out that victimhood to the universe, and before long, you find yourself completely trapped in that loop. You need to significantly expand your personal understanding of why you continually resonate and connect with this kind of experience, this kind of discomfort. Why is that? Is it your fear? Is it your emotional dependency? Are you trying to please others, but not because you really want to, but out of fear of losing someone, out of fear of offending? Are you staying in this job because you truly like it? Or are you just afraid of being terminated from your position? Or perhaps afraid you won't be able to secure a brand new career opportunity? Do you live in this specific environment because you don't feel strong enough to create a different situation, a different life, or an entirely different way of living your life? And because of that, do you keep complaining and going along with it, complaining and going along with it, complaining and going along with that same place? You really need to broaden your perspective, taking a step back to look at the bigger picture and try to truly understand which specific part of you is actually aligning with that obstacle, and also which part of you is aligning with that feeling of victimhood, or perhaps with that sense that everything in your life just seems completely upside down. Which part of you? What is your fear? What is your pain? What is your insecurity that makes you align with that? Because when you truly begin to broaden your perspective, you naturally stop giving all of your precious focus to those same nagging sources of discomfort. And right there, in that moment when you broaden your perspective, you gain a profound sense of clarity and finally return to your inner center. You start to feel incredibly strong and you start to feel deeply at peace with yourself. And from this place, you are able to create. When you are feeling truly desperate and deeply upset, when it seems like everything, absolutely everything around you is falling apart, when it feels like every single thing in your life is going downhill, you cannot create amazing things. Maybe not easily and maybe not very quickly, but when you finally return to your center, you broaden your horizons and start searching deep within yourself. You find the deepest answers, the ones that truly include you in the entire equation. Because most of the time, you take yourself out of the equation. You say, my problem is out there. My problem is that person, and my problem is that situation. It's as if you didn't even exist in that whole equation. But when you finally put yourself into that equation and start to observe, you'll see that there's something new for you to experience, that there is a completely new way for you to perceive the world around you, that there is a fresh way for you to experience every single one of those emotions. And when you turn inward, when you find your true center, that is when you are truly able to manifest your deepest desires with incredible speed and effortless grace. A bold new path, a clear new vision, and a beautiful new life. But for that, you need to expand. You need to want to transform. You need to be willing to see the shadow side because it exists. If you have a problem in your life, or if there's something going on that you just don't like, it's usually because that thing you don't like is actually being created by a shadow part of yourself. And if you don't want to take the time to look at that shadow, you'll end up spending your whole life just dealing with the symptoms it causes in your existence, rather than addressing the real issue. To truly change those symptoms and make a real difference, you need to be willing to look at the shadows and understand what's really going on beneath the surface. And when you look at it, understand it, and embrace it, that's when you're able to transform it. That's when you're able to change your life. So, the focus that brings about unconscious manifestations is actually created in this specific manner. These patterns tend to emerge when you're unconscious, especially when you're completely disconnected from your inner center.